Hey, you like cars? Yeah, I'm back again. It's CarQuicks podcast. You know what time it is. Episode 41. Now, obviously, I don't know what I'm doing, okay? Clearly. I don't know what I'm hosting, and I don't know what episode I'm on because it's not episode 41. It's episode 42. Listen, hey, it happens. Let's get back to the show. Season 2. How y'all doing? Y'all feeling good? I'm feeling good. I'm feeling great. I'm feeling wonderful. But we're just going to drive right into the topics at hand. So I was perusing the interwebs for the news on cars, right? Just kind of going through the stuff I was looking at. And Ford introduced something kind of interesting, right? Ford has the Raptor. They got the Raptor R. They have the Ford Lightning, not the Lightning, the electric one. So their Ford Performance Group released the Ford Lightning electric truck. I forgot what that thing was called because I just had it in my head. And now I forgot what they called it because they had a special name for it because what they basically did was it's like a idea, a concept, right? They try to show you what they could do with the Lightning truck if they just didn't have any budget, because clearly they threw all their ideas at this thing. So they took the Ford Lightning and Raptorized it in a way, right? Carbon composite, wide fenders. They have the same electric motor, 775 foot-pounds of torque. They also have a dual motor, so it's 580 horsepower, the same setup. I'm trying to look for what they called this thing because they had a special name for it, but I don't know if they actually did. The Lightning SwitchGear, which is a cool name. This is a truck I can get behind, to be perfectly frank, because considering the fact that most of the time Raptor's all that ice-powered V8 turbo, twin turbo V6, those type of cars, they're common. So when you see the Lightning, to see them go as far as to show you what it could do on the off-road. Now, granted, obviously, an off-road Raptor type of truck, there's some heavy limitations. Weight, racing, charging, where you're charging. You can't charge no one to the car. 20, rally racing. You can't do it in the forest if you're doing anything like that. You can't use solar panels that fast. So really, it's just a exercise in what it could be. Here's what they did, right? They kind of threw a lot of stuff at it. 11-inch front and 13-inch rear wheel travel. So yes, we can jump in the air. It has 5 Recaro bucket seats inside, full with the harness bar, custom-made seat mounts. It looks the part. It also has double wishbone custom suspension, obviously because it weighs even heavier than a normal Raptor or F-150 because of the batteries. So they had to go a step further when it came to engineering, putting together the wishbone suspension, putting together the shocks, and basically just showing you, hey, if we didn't have any cost parameters, this is what we could build, because a Raptor R is about $100,000. You can guarantee a Ford Lightning SwitchGear would cost $200,000. Okay, there's no way this wouldn't be exponentially more expensive than a regular Raptor. So the Ford Performance Group, they kind of pieced it together, showed it off, showed pictures of it flying around, getting airborne. I like what they did here. Now, realistically, the only thing that probably is going to happen to the Ford Lightning is they may offer like an off-road package with it. Because right now it's a standard electric EV truck. I think there's a few aftermarket things that they have thrown at it, but I haven't been searching, obviously, the electric EV truck world to that degree on the F-150. But if they were to take what they did here and apply it, I could see them throwing like the trimmer package on it, little 4x4 option on it. Nothing too crazy, but just to give it a little bit more of a rugged stance, so to speak. I think it looks cool. I like the idea. I do like seeing Ford Performance when they did with their Mach-E, when they made that crazy drift one, made the crazy race one. I like seeing them do this because it at least offers people the vision of motorsports and what it could be if we are to introduce more EV into it, more electric vehicles. like I said, the biggest hangup is going to be keeping these things running. You can't have a Le Mans 24 hours and we're worrying about charging the car for about 30 or 40 minutes. You got to have something that can just keep going, fuel, let's race, let's go, hot swap these batteries, do something like that. We aren't there yet. We're going to get there. We're not there yet. Now, moving along, Mazda, oh my gosh. So Mazda came out a couple days ago and said, we got a special group of people in the catacombs of our development center working on a rotary engine. Some development of a rotary engine. Mazda knows what they're doing. I mean, they're playing with emotions, first of all. They know good and well, for all of us Mazda enthusiasts, the RX-7 enthusiasts, whenever we hear that you are developing anything rotary-esque, if the Dorito is spinning in some type of aluminum chamber, we are wanting to know when it's dropping. Because at this stage in the game, we've already been through all the iterations of them developing something, not developing something. Maybe we're going to do it, we're not going to do it. Okay, it was back again. And then a couple months ago, they dropped a bomb of a concept car with the iconic SP concept. And I've already said, I said on Instagram under one of their posts saying it is going to be a disservice to everything we love if this car doesn't come out in some capacity that looks like that concept. I don't need the crazy half going butterfly doors like an Aston Martin. We can get some regular doors. I don't need the skinny side view camera mirrors. I'll take some regular side view mirrors. Still want the pop-ups. We can do this. But here's one thing the CEO says, which I find hilarious. The CEO, obviously, his name is, what's his name? Because I wrote it down here. The CEO, Katsuhiro Moro, said, I am very happy and deeply moved by all the support and encouragement I have received for the compact sports car concept. He's talking about the iconic SP1, if you ain't know. I would like to take this opportunity to thank you all. Listen, dog. I mean, listen here, man. You're welcome, okay? We appreciate you liking all the accolades and all the praise you got. We truly do. But here's the thing, though. We want the car to be made. I don't want to hear CEOs saying, I'm deeply moved. You know what you're doing? The moment they took the wrap off of that car in the development center, when they showed you that concept they drew up, and they drew that clay model, and they called you downstairs and say, hey, come look at what we did. There's no way you weren't like, I don't know if this is gonna... I don't know. I mean, the RX-7, I don't know how they're going to feel about taking RX-7 Qs and Miata Qs and throwing them in a two-door coupe. It may not go over to stop it. Just stop. Make the car. I don't want to hear about your deeply moved. I want you to deeply move yourself to the production line, okay, and get this cracking. I don't want to hear about a development of a rotary engine somewhere in the depths of Mazda that might turn out to be nothing. They might make a whole rotary engine and next thing you know, it's in a weed whacker. But, I mean, not that extreme. But you understand what I'm saying, right? We've done this with manufacturers teasing and showing some version of some car, and we're like, oh my gosh, all you got to do is deliver, and we're copping. And then they turn around and say, listen, guys, you know, we checked the account books, and it looks like we overspent on the development of this motor, and so we're just going to not do it. We're going to actually made it to an electric engine, and we're going to make an electric rotary, guys. No. I can see that happening. We shall see, though. They're working on it, so I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. The fact that they even spun up a whole development team, I don't know how big it is. I don't know if it's 3 people, 5 people, his brother, his uncle, his son, just in the back drawing up little rotary engines and not really doing nothing. Who knows what development means? But they've hinted at a sports car like this before, one that had up to almost near 600 horsepower that was mated to an electric engine. So they already have the body. I mean, this would be a fire seller. Now, obviously, the thing that they're going to have to figure out to do is, do they have the business model? Do they have the dealership network to offer a car that would cost, from what I see, we're talking near $60K. Unless they develop, let's say, something very lightweight, which is more what they should do, right? Something in the 40K range and under. Maybe very lightweight, 300, 300 horsepower rotary engine, $40,000 two-door sports coupe. That's the sweet spot. It doesn't need to be the fire breather 600 horsepower. Just look at your counterparts, Lexus with the LFA and all these other companies that try to shoot for the moon. And while they may deliver on the car, what happens is it becomes just a rarity for either the ultra rich or the people with the means to buy it. And nobody ever really sees it, and it becomes discontinued and becomes a rarity. We don't want that. You want people to have the car out and about and around. That's the whole point of being an enthusiast. You want to see the car. You want to see it driving. So let's see what Mazda does. I hope they do something, because I'm telling you now, if we only get that as a concept, man, I got to repeat myself. Listen, we get that as only a concept, I'm going to be highly disappointed. Now, another iconic car that's making its comeback, the Dodge. Not the Dodge, but you know what I'm talking about. They're working on the new Charger, and it was out in the streets of Michigan. And as soon as this thing hit the interwebs, I already saw the comments. I didn't even have to look. There are some people that don't like how this looks. Which is hilarious, because we were here when the Charger got re-announced many moons ago. The Charger was originally a two-door muscle car. When the newest one came out and it was a four-door sedan, you could read you could hear the screams, the cries of agony when they showed that thing off in a four-door family sedan. And folks, there was no Hellcat wide bodies. There was no scat pack. They rolled out the pedestrian looking standard Pentastar V6 family sedan Charger, and folks lost it. They were like, yo, you've disrespected. I even probably said, I was like, yo, the Charger. I'm like, you've disrespect. Because remember, they had a two-door concept. They actually might have been a four-door, very sleek looking concept, if I remember correctly. And then they rolled out what they made, and trust me, people were not feeling it. Later on, as we moved on, and they've definitely made good on their promise, we're now going back to two-door. So some people are like, yo, it's a two-door now. What are we going to do? Which is hilarious. They can't win. Whatever they were going to do for this next iteration of the Challenger and the Charger was going to be met with some type of backlash, because they made such a high-selling, highly loved car. And so, like, when you try to reintroduce it, it's a problem. I don't know if this is the EV version now floating around or the Hurricane Inline 6 one, but there's potential that Hurricane Inline 6, depending on how stout the engine is or durable or whatever the aftermarket finds out that they can squeeze out of that motor or do, the foundation for high potential is there. And I like how this thing looks. Personally, I think it looks really good. I can see the wide rear haunches. I can see the muscular lines of the car when you see it from the rear. The front end looks good to me. It's simplified. It may not have as big of an opening where people see that aggression, but this thing is looking good. I mean, the color's terrible. They have it driving around like a gray, blackish gray color. It's also winter time, so Michigan looks black and gray as well. So you can't really get any sense of what you're looking at. But I can see some potential. I can see a set of wheels, lowered stands, and this is looking mighty good. And given the motor, like I said, I'm sure it'll have a manual option, or maybe it won't. Maybe just have an automatic version, but that ain't stopped nobody from buying these cars hand over fist. So I see the potential. Some people aren't liking it. They're used to the wide body Challenger and they're used to the wide body Charger. So it's going to be a little bit of a difficulty for Dodge to get these people on board, but I like what I see. And maybe they could add another wide body on top of what I see. This thing looks pretty wide to me as it is, so probably a better color is going to more insinuate what we're looking at, but they're driving it on the road. So it's coming. We got until summer, couple months. Like I said, when this comes out, however many naysayers there are, they're going to sell all of them. especially when we get to the performance iterations, the SRT iterations, the EV Banshee one. Even when that comes out, people are going to buy that one too. Trust me. Whatever the naysayers say, Dodge is still going to flip and sell all these things as soon as they hit the ground. Now, speaking of like sounds, like EVs and things like that, Borla announced back in SEMA, and I must have missed this because, to be frank, it wasn't like some news I was going to really check for. But back in SEMA, Borla announced they had it's not even a system. It's a sound system for the Mustang Mach-E that gives you the sounds of a V8 when you're revving I'm saying engine. When you're revving the electric motor, it gives you the sounds of a V8 on the outside. And the division on this is akin to the Red Sea partying. Okay, you got folks on one side that kind of like it, and on the other side, you got people that loathe it. I'm somewhere in the middle called confusion. Okay, I don't really know. I don't know. I just don't know. Like, on one hand, additional sounds are cool, right? Like EVs having cool sounds, that's cool. Like electric RC cars, they can sound cool. I mean, it may not sound like a nitro, you can hear it coming down the road, but they can sound cool. But it's cool if it's futuristic sounds. I don't know why we're leaving Star Wars Episode 1 and the pod racers and how they sounded just on the table. I mean, maybe it's patented sounds. It probably is, knowing Disney. But where's the Jetsons? Where I've talked about it before when the Envision from Hyundai was announced, and I said this stuff should sound like Star Wars, it should sound like the future. Let's just have some fun. Why are we making or developing a speaker system for a fake V8 sound in a car that doesn't have the engine? I mean, if it doesn't have the motor, then we might as well just put a V10 sound on it. Like, why does it have to be a V8? Which I understand they're doing it because of the Mustang sound, and it's a Mustang Mach-E, and Mustangs only have V8s and V6s and stuff like that, but they're known for their V8 muscle cars, so I get that aspect of it, but why are we beholden to that if it's an EV? Why is the system not just sound piped into the interior speakers for the driver and the passengers? Why is there speakers on the outside for us all to hear the engine that you do not have? As opposed to it sounding more like a futuristic spaceship and us understanding that it's an EV. I don't know. Listen, the people that do like it, it is fun for them. I'm not saying it can't be fun. I mean, it's good to have fun. I'm not saying everything got to be, cut and dry, but I'm in camp confusion. I don't know. For me, it's a party trick. It can be kind of cool. It's a conversation piece. I mean, maybe this is Borla finding their way into being relevant when it comes to the EV space. Trying to find a place where they are somehow involved in the EV space to offer something, because people have bought it. There are owners that are on Reddit talking about what they do like about it. So there is somebody for it that wants to hear the sound. It's the outward sound that makes it interesting to me, because most people say, there was a comment that said this is akin to like rolling coal. It's noise pollution, somebody said. They're like, what's the point of you emitting the noise to the outside if what you want is to hear it on the inside, or just to hear it in general? We can just play it on the inside. It's an interesting concept, one that Dodge showed off. Going back to Dodge when they showed their Challenger EV or the Charger EV. And I said it was interesting because it's like, okay, I get it on that car because it is a muscle car, and when you see it, that is what you expect. The Mustang Mach-E is interesting because it's an SUV, and everybody that sees an SUV isn't expecting, for the most part, I'm not talking about those crazy fast SUVs like, a Porsche Cayenne Turbo or something. But for the most part, when they see an electric EV that's an SUV, we're just thinking family car. The Mustang Mach-E has a nice, sleek, sporty-ish look. But nobody's like, I'm waiting to hear what that sounds like. So that's an interesting concept that they're doing. But they're selling it. I didn't see what the price was. I'm pretty sure it's over $1,000, which is really where it gets kind of confusing when it costs that much. But really what we're here to talk about, really what we're here to get cracking on, Toky Auto Salon. You know it. I told you last podcast, it was a JDM extravaganza on the rise. Now, I haven't gone to the show yet. One day, between now and next year, I'm going to make it happen, okay? But I watch this show from the comfort of my home 7,000 miles away. But did they deliver? I mean, I've seen this show broadcasted in pictures and videos and magazines for many, many, many years. Such a long time. It never gets boring to me. Haven't even been there in person. So when I do get there in person, it's just gonna heighten the feeling of like, yeah, this is a great show. The one show that I went to like that when I was, years ago was the Geneva Auto Show, because I always wanted to go to that one. I finally made it to that show. It was everything I could ever dream of. All the car manufacturers, all the hypercars, all the supercars, everything. It was an extravaganza. But back to the Toky Auto Salon. What did I like about it? What was the big deal? Why is everybody talking about it? I'm going to start off by talking about Liberty Walk. So last year at Toky Auto Salon, Liberty Walk widebody an F40. You can see it on the screen. And Ferrari probably had a nightmare because they ain't feeling none of this. But they made an F40. It broke the internet as far as cars. This year, everybody knew they were going to do something else more extravagant or just something in that same vein. 80s, 90s supercars. They threw the wide body on the Countach. This thing looks exquisite. Okay, squared off wide body flares. This thing fell out of Midnight Club or Need for Speed Underground or something. It looks the part. White colored. The Ferrari was white last year. They now put a blue wrap on it. But next to the F40, they introduced what could only be... this might have stole the show, but they took an AutoZam AZ1 and made a baby F40. You can see the picture. Just look at it. And if you haven't seen this, go look it up, because this is the quintessential mini F40, not the Pontiac Fiero body kits that never turn out to look like anything but a kit car. This looks like a baby version of the F40. Now, my 6'3" frame can't fit in this thing probably. Maybe my son could. I mean, I would try it, though, just because how cool it looks. But they showed that off next to the Countach, and the Countach looks amazing that they did on this. Like, I don't know what they're going to do next, because I can see the theme. They're doing 80s supercars. They did the Countach. That's 80s, early 90s. That's 90s, late 80s. I think late 80s, early 90s. They did the F40. I don't know what they could do next, though my heart would like them to do a Jaguar XJ220. Not that there hasn't been wide body kits for the Jaguar XJ220. I think Koenig made one for it, maybe at one point in time. I could be mistaken. But they've already done things like the Ferrari F348. I don't know if they did a Testarossa. They've done 308s or 328s. But that is where I think they should go next. I mean, they're already gone to the Countach. They've gone to the iconic cars. An XJ220 would be outrageous. So I don't know how much those things cost. So in order to buy one of those, if you got to spend $1 million to chop it up, I mean, I don't know. He's not going to do anything on like a McLaren F1, because that's a $20 million supercar. Even though if you really want to shatter the internet, is you grabbing one of those and chopping up a $20-30 million supercar. That would be astronomical. Now, moving on, because there was way more to see there, and I'm not even close to getting done. Trey Kyoto, Mr. Pandem Rocket Bunny himself, he did something interesting this year, because what he showed off, as you can see, is he had wide body trucks. Now, usually Pandem Rocket Bunny, they're known for their wide body kit they made for the FRS, what they make for the 300, or not the 300, the 350Z. The Nissan Z, I think they have one. They have one for a Mustang. They have one for a variety of cars. So they did this on trucks, because he has a drift truck that has just basically, think of it, all it is in the back is a full-on tubular frame with the front end of a truck, turbo 2JZ motor. But he showed like a Nissan Frontier pickup truck with a wide body kit. I don't even care for Nissan pickup trucks, but I saw this and I was like, okay. I could see the potential now. Speaking of other cars that were absolutely crazy, there was a red RX-7. Now, anybody listening to this podcast, they're going to say, I cannot even visualize what you're talking about. So this is the aspect of the podcast. So you really need to just go to YouTube, like and subscribe, and go check out the video of this podcast, because what I'm describing here has to be seen with your eyeballs, okay? Somebody made one of the most outrageous show car style RX-7s I've seen in a long time. I'm talking full deep dish all around, red candy paint, molded wide body flares, wide, deep dish, 5-spoke JDM wheels, full stereo system, air ride, full interior in red, bridge. I mean, the complete show car package executed at the highest of orders. HKS had their booth. They showed off a wide body GR86 that this kit is, oh my gosh, you would talk about aggressive. It reminds me of the kit they made on the A90 Supra. Same level of aggression. Flares are super protruding, super pronounced, very deep canards and diffusers and side skirts. I love this look. Every time I see a GR86 built like this is why I love this car, because of how many options you have to really make it look ultra aggressive. Now, the GR Corolla I love and already has a factory like wide body on it, but the way these GR86s or BRZs can look, especially being a 2-doors, very sleek coupe, you really can't even beat it. Varis had their booth, and if you know Varis, they make stuff for the FL5, Civic Type R. They got stuff for the Nissan Z, the 370Z. Varis doesn't even need an introduction, because what they make is some of the highest quality carbon fiber pieces, aero pieces, time attack style front lips and wide body kits. And you're going to pay a premium, because nothing that they make comes cheap. Not that you really want it to become cheap, but what they make is such high quality that you will understand when you see it. You're like, listen, I know for a fact that this is going to be $1,000 front lip, and that's just what it is. Next to Varis, there was, who was it? It was Greddy. Greddy had a wide body E36 M3 in their booth from the gentleman Kaiser, who makes I think it's Live to Offend wide body kits for the BMW E36, and they made one for the E30. I mean, no introduction needed. It looks fantastic. I'm talking the brown, caramel brown and forest green Alcantara full interior wide body kit. It just looks amazing. Aim Gain, and I believe that's how you say their name. I've always said Aim Gain because it's spelled AIMGAIN. Listen, Aim Gain. That's all I can say. They showed off a kit for the Prius. Now, the Toyota Prius already looks great for not even just a hybrid. It looks good as a car in general. If you put it up next to Cars House Design, it looks good. And they showed off a kit they have for the Prius, and I know it's coming. The modified Priuses, they're about to start showing up, especially when you get the used ones that are going to show up. Obviously, modifying a brand new Prius, most people are buying them for the efficiency of having a hybrid, but you can definitely have your cake and eat it too. I can look the part, and I get good gas mileage. Next to that Prius, so they had a GR86 wide body, and I know I was just talking about the HKS one, which is like same car, right? But what Aim Gain did, theirs might be the smoothest, best looking one in many years. HKS one is aggressive. It's wide body, it's flared, it's very time attackish. This one looks street, aggressive. They got a cover on the headlights that kind of slims them down. Very sleek, supercar way of looking when the headlights are on and running. So I like what they did there. But what they did on their Prius, another company called Cool Racing, KUHL, they took it a step further. Now, what they did is they took the Prius and added a wide body kit on it, but not in the fashion that I would suspect. They insinuated some of the factory lines. It's not flared like the curved flares with the rivets on it. It matches into the door. It just widens out the door. It flows from the front, goes wide, and matches the lines, and then it goes to the rear. This is aggressive. And one of those things where I'm for sure you're going to lose some efficiency on your mileage because you're going to run some really wide tires and wheels, and that's more rolling resistance. But This is a spaceship. If you did this, look at the picture. You can't lose pulling up. Amongst the other things that were there, Top Secret was there. And if you know JDM car companies and car manufacturers, you know who Top Secret is. I don't even got to explain that. If you're listening to my podcast and you just like my news on the cars and how I deliver it, this might be news to you, but like, who the heck is Top Secret? But as far as JDM car companies go that modify Skylines and R34s and R35s that are known for that, Top Secret is a renowned name. So they came back to Toky Auto Salon and they brought in a new version of their famous gold color, because that's what they were known for. They kept painting all their cars in a specific gold color. They've changed the formula, obviously, to bring in something new and fresh. They have a new gold color on the R34. I mean, it looks dope. I mean, you can't be mad. I don't know the specs they had on the motor. Knowing Top Secret is high performance all the way around. Now, I thought the F40 was the only Ferrari that was gonna, be modified to a point that Ferrari would probably try to take it off the registry. But 326 power, they're known for slamming cars to the ground. Heavy camper on coilovers that have outrageous spring rates, but from what I've read, they still ride good because the dampening and everything is made for these crazy 30K rated springs that they put on these coilovers to slam these cars down without buckling fenders. They did this same thing on Ferrari 488 GTB, and the results are ridiculous. I can get behind this. I'm not even a person that would try to slam a Ferrari. But listen, if I had the means for Ferrari and other supercars, one of them may look like this. I mean, just look. It looks crazy. Now, this is not everybody's cup of tea because you really got to like this type of aggressive camber style. My son calls it slanty wheels. They got the slanty wheels, okay? And it looks good. Toyota had their crown, their Century, not the crown. They did have a crown there. They have modified crowns, but the new Toyota Century that they have in Japan, when they do VIP on these, this boxy, flared, I mean, it looks Rolls Royce when they're done. So they had a few of those there that looked, I mean, they just looked amazing to me. But what I really was checking for, and you already know what that is, I was checking for the GR Corolla. And they had a few things there. Varis had their kit for the GR Corolla out there. I do like the kit. I do like it a lot. It's Varis. The front splitters are nice and aggressive, subtle too, side skirts. The rear wing looks very good, though. At some angles, I kind of don't like the rear wing because it reminds me of it's like a very flat, angled wing with a slight, upward angle, but it's very park benish off the back of the car. From some angles, it doesn't look that great to me. From other angles, it looks absolutely amazing. The Grow design was there. You already know they were there. It's showing off the same car again. The Grow design was there. There was Blitz. Blitz has a rear wing on the GR Corolla that I don't know the price on it, but like I've said before, any of these JDM parts, the price and what you have to pay to ship this stuff over is extreme. Like, you really have to marry yourself to that idea of wanting to support and do this stuff for these companies, because none of this stuff is going to be cheap, like, at all. But even with the GR Corolla, Toyota did announce something. So they announced they redesigned the front bumper and interior of the GR Yaris for 2024. Now, we have a 2024 GR Corolla, but it's not like this. So the new GR Yaris has 300 horsepower now, up from 273 and 295 foot-pounds of torque, which is up from like 260, I believe. Or I think I might have switched it. I think the torque was 273. The horsepower might have been around 263 or something. I thought this was just a Marizo version of our GR Corolla with the way we did our output, because it's the same numbers, but I suspect it's different because what they mentioned was there's a stronger valve train, which might address the valve train float that happens on the GR Corolla when you up the power on it. There's stronger exhaust valves, there's new pistons, and increased fuel pressure. So they changed something. I don't know if those additions make their way to the GR Corolla in maybe 2025 model year, but they added some other cool features that I wish we had, and I actually don't want them to come to the new one or the 2025 one because I'm gonna be a little tight. So they got anti-lag, which would be an amazing feature to have on a GR Corolla, an increased speed limiter, Cooling fan, they talked about better cooling, I guess presumably when you're driving or racing on the racetrack. And a shift timing indicator. So they have lights somewhere on the dash that start flashing when it's time to shift. We have that on the digital display, but it's not a light that flashes. You just have to look at the display. And when it gets close to the end, it'll start turning yellow in a different color. But where they really went kind of crazy is they changed the interior. Now, this interior, as you can see, it's very 80s, 90-ish. It looks like it's lopsided because of the angle of the infotainment screen, but it's very Supra from the Mark IV, very driver centric, where the controls and everything are in front of the driver. And at first I wasn't feeling it. Then I saw it again in more pictures and comparisons to old JDM cars. And I said, wait a second, I actually do like this because listen, right now, we aren't even designing car interiors. Maybe the few car companies that are standouts, but for the most part, we don't do anything and we call it minimalism, or we put a 75-inch Samsung screen on the dash. Okay, we either put something massive on the dash or we don't do anything at all. So even if this was kind of funky and very old school, I think it matches to the rally vibes, right? I hope they do bring to the GR Corolla. Not that I would trade my car in for an interior redesign, but I would like to see it, and I think this does look cool. Now, will these parts make it to the GR Corolla, like I said? I don't know, but what has made it, right, GR Corolla update, what has made it to my car is some new parts. So I have Racer X parts for their short shifter and shifter bushings. Now, of course, if you've been paying attention to the updates I do on my car, I've done shifter bushings multiple times. So I'm doing it again. This time, however, I'm going to pair it with the Racer X short shifter to see how it feels, because what I've been told is that these two married together, they form the perfect bond, right? This is what you want to do. I'm now running the DC Sports not the short shifter, the shift bushings, and I have the Forge Motorsports short shifter. I've had the Forge one on for a good amount of time, somewhere close to like over 15,000 miles. So I'm very intrigued to try something new from this company because I haven't tried it. And they've done a lot more than the Forge one is just a small piece that sits on the shift linkage. Theirs is a whole CNC aluminum machine piece. So I want to see what this feels like. My guess is that some of the notchiness that the Forge Motorsports has, which can be a unique feature that people like or a character feature that people like, I suspect it cleans that up even more. I'm still on my way to probably getting a K short shifter or one of those Cooler Works ones, but I did a comparison video on the intake from MST and 6 Element, did that with a friend of mine, and we got some future ideas, right? We got some ideas we're going to do for an OEM plus type of intake of our own making that we're going to do our own way. I, love watching Toky Auto Salon. The JDM prices and the shipping on these parts are a hard reality, okay? This stuff costs dos muchos, okay? Too much. But it's a game you got to play, right? That's what you have to do. If you want to get into it, if you want to buy these parts, if you want to do that, that's just what it costs. And that's it. I enjoy doing this. I'm glad y'all, listen to me talking about car news and the stuff that comes up. Next week, we got some other news happening. I may try to increase this podcast to 2 episodes a week. I haven't fully committed to that. My idea is if I do that, I might shorten them down to just 30-minute segments, get the news out real quick and dirty, and be on my way. Or I'll talk about a different aspect of maybe some car news that I read. Because I don't talk about every single thing I read. I talk about the stuff that I like that I just write down, give y'all something new. But I want y'all to just, enjoy yourselves. And as I always say, do as you wish and do as you may. It's Cameron Biggs, your host. This is another episode of CarQuicks. I'll see y'all around. Peace.